This is the Dog Psychology Podcast with Lynn Bokey, Todd Langston, and Art Ortiz.
All right, so welcome to the Dog Psychology Podcast with Lynn, Todd, and Art. Today we have a guest, our first guest. And our first guest is actually someone who knows both Lynn and Todd. I thought it'd be kind of cool to get an insider's take on someone who is not a trainer, who is involved in rescue, and someone who has worked with both of them. Hasn't worked with me yet, but I want to get a different perspective on someone who's worked with both of them. So, Sue, go and introduce yourself.
Hi, and thanks for having me. It's really an honor. And yes, I have known Todd and Lynn quite some time now. If we start adding up the years, we might scare ourselves. But my name is Sue Hewlings, and I'm the director of the ARFShack Rescue. And that is my unpaying job. My paying job is I'm a consultant in the dietary supplement space. So I work from home and I live in the Florida Keys. And actually right now have 3 dogs. I'm a rescue person, so the right now is an important part of that statement.
And the dietary supplements for humans or for dogs?
I've done mostly humans, but I have worked in both. I've done some stuff with the National Animal Supplement Council and some things in the pet space as well.
Cool. So, I mean, I honestly don't even know how you came to know both of them. Where did it all start? Where's the beginning of all this?
One amazing dog is where it all started. So many years ago, I was living up in Orlando near where Todd lives, and I found a beautiful blonde brindle Amstaff running down the highway chasing cars. I'm like, oh, I'm going to rescue this dog. I pull her in because I think, oh, she's dog friendly. She's with another dog, I had no idea what I was getting into, and I hadn't even started my rescue yet at the time. So I'm like, wow, I got to do something. Like, this dog is chasing strollers. She's chasing skateboards, and she is like Jekyll and Hyde, sweet as can be until she sees a dog. And then literally jaw starts clicking, thank God I realized it while she was on a leash, and so I was like, I don't know what to do. So I started just making phone calls, and it was like a trickle down effect. And Todd had just gotten done training with Lynn. It was like right when he got back, and someone's like, oh, my neighbor Todd, he's like, he just got back. He's really good with dogs, and he can maybe help you. And so
I just moved here. I had finished with Lynn a couple of years prior, and I had done the business in California. Yeah, we had just moved in to North Shore, and I think this is. Did I meet you through Kalima or through Almondine?
No, it's Kalima, I think.
And it was your friend
Almondine
who
was after.
Yoga person, right? Okay. The yogi person who is that who I met you through? She was she lived 2 or 3 doors down, right?
Janie.
Some yoga girl. There you go. Yeah, that's right. It's all right.
Yeah.
Please continue.
It was years ago. I mean, just so everyone knows, like, if we miss details, forgive us. It was, I don't know.
15 years ago, 16 years ago, 2008 or 2008, I think.
Yep. And this was a dog who had, later Todd, told me she had diverted aggression, and like bad in the beginning, diverted aggression. So I ran her every morning. I got up at 5 a.m. so I could run her before any dogs were out, blah, blah, blah. So Todd came over and helped me figure it out. And he just was like, this dog, you really need Lynn involved in this. This dog is intense. This dog's a lot. So Todd took me, where his skill set was at the time. And I think it went from there. And then I was like, I met somebody who had a boarding facility who we started the rescue. And I'm like, you're right. I need to go train with Lynn, because if I'm going to rescue dogs, I need to understand them more. Like, Kalima made me realize how much I didn't know. And I had already raised 2 seeing eye dogs for Southeastern guide dogs. One that went on to guide a blind lady. So like I thought like I had knowledge of how to train dogs. With Kalima was next level, and ended up being just the greatest lesson of all, and brought me so many cool people, including 2 that are sitting right here. So then I went out to
talking about the crusty cookies.
Culver City. Yeah. I went out to Culver City and had 2 weeks of a lifetime, and Todd did not properly warn me what I had myself in for. Thank God he didn't warn me.
Yep.
But that's interesting.
Many dogs between Lynn and I we've gotten from you too, like Almondine. So I ended up getting Almondine from you, and I mean, through the years, it's just different dogs, and then I think I ended up with Blue, which turned into Huey, which went to Lynn, right? That was the what was the pity? Didn't that one that I had for a really short time? I went out to Lynn.
He wasn't Blue Nose. He had Brindle and a little blue Hugh. That's why I call him Hugh.
Oh,
but
okay.
That's a whole different story. But I know he was with you for a short bit, because I know I have a picture somewhere of him in the back seat with some of your dogs.
Yeah.
We pulled him from. We had to get him out of the shelter, and then he was with you until I had a chance to ship him. I flew him out to Lynn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so the dog that you found on the side of the road, you flew him out to Lynn?
No, this was a different dog. Yeah. No, so Kali Ma ended up being, Todd helped me break her with the of running strollers and skateboards and stuff like that. But the aggression was next level. Like that's what I mean. Like towards other dogs, not towards people at all. Loved people. So that's why it was like, and cats, loved cats. But it was super deceiving about it, because she literally would like eyes dilate, tongue click, jaw, and in particular, I had my first guide dog that I raised, Scotch. She came back. Her blind lady got cancer. She came back after working for 5 years. And Scotch was extremely balanced, and she called bullshit on Kali Ma. She's like, this dog is not balanced, and I'm gonna challenge it. Yeah. Well, I mean, there was no way. They couldn't even see each other down the hallway of my house. Remember that long hallway in my house, Lynn? And it was bad. And I was like, what am I going to do? I got this dog that I raised to be a guide dog 18 months. She came back to me after I had the pit bull. And then I've got dogs in and out of this house all the time for the rescue. What am I going to do? And so between you guys and Vicky, I took in a lot of different perspectives of how to manage it. And I think that that's an important message for me. Like I watched Lynn and I learned a lot. And one of the big things I learned is what I can't do. I mean, as odd as that might sound to people, like, wait, what? That's an important thing to take away, right? Like, I watched Lynn and realized my skills, I was never going to have the guts to walk Kali Ma around the neighborhood and walk her past a poodle. And she knew I wasn't going to have the guts to do it. And therein, it should never happen. And so it never did, unless Lynn was the one walking around the neighborhood. So I think that's important. Like I want to tell people who are listening to you guys, like, try to figure out, take the different things and fit it, but don't think that you have to do what you guys do. Like, you take it in and you come out with your own within your own limits. Like, I think that's huge.
You find your Goldilocks.
So you go to Culver City. I want to know about that experience, because Todd didn't warn you, like you said. Todd got to experience it. I've never even experienced it. I got the soft version of Lynn. I've got years later where the watered down. Not, I wouldn't say watered down. The information is still there, but it's not
suppressed. We'll call it suppressed, because there were some complaints, not really complaints, but some concerns and worries about affecting other people in their status. So I was requested to tone things down firmly.
What was that experience like?
It was amazing. It absolutely changed my relationship with my dogs and all dogs that I engage with. Absolutely 1000% changed how I view dogs, how I interact with them. All for the better. It had its rough spots and some funny moments. Like, so you guys know this, get there and Lynn's like, you can't talk, right? You can't talk. Now, I had the shortened version. Todd went all in. I was only there for a couple of weeks, and I'm like, and so it was right after Christmas. So Lynn had a ton of dogs because he had boarding dogs, he had rescue, and he's like, he just kept passing them out the back door for me to walk. And the goal was, I think, Lynn, I mean, it's like I was supposed to be able, like, have to ask to go to the bathroom or ask for a drink or ask for Finally, Lynn opens the door. He's like, you've been walking dogs for 6 hours. What are you doing? Like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, well, you told me I couldn't talk and just kept walking. But I'm an ultra runner. So I run like 50-mile races and 50-mile runs. Well, Lynn didn't know that. I could have literally walked the whole 2 weeks if I needed to.
My psychological challenge were not working at that time. She loved being alone and being quiet.
So Lynn, what are you thinking at this time? Like, why is this woman not asking me to go to the restroom? Like, what are you thinking during this time?
I think she's peeing on the walks with the dogs and not marking it down in the pee and poop book.
Oh my gosh.
No,
That's
it goes
funny.
until it doesn't, and then I find something else, and I'm sure that I found something else to make you have to talk.
Right.
Probably quickly realized this isn't a physical game. You started asking questions, and did you the one that was the barracks? Those whatever those type of huts are.
Yeah, it had the Quonset hut in the back.
Right. That was
I lived there. It was a really great place. Actually, I wish I'd never left. It's so big and perfect, except for the backyard. It was small. But
I did talk some because I was talking to Todd on the phone. I was talking to Todd.
What do those conversations sound like?
Well, and I'm like, stuff I didn't know.
What I find interesting is that I've heard obviously I've heard about Todd's experience, and Todd, when we talk about it, Todd's always, how amazing it was. But I've also heard the opposite. You know what I mean? And here's the thing: like, I'm always open. I want to experience things on my own. So when I first met Lynn years ago, but then I got to go to one of his workshops. I was like, I don't see why people are so like, why why he rubs people the wrong way. I couldn't figure that out. I still don't really understand that part because maybe it's because of my background. I grew up playing baseball, and my baseball coach was very direct and very, just one of those. I wouldn't say a hard ass. We wanted the best for us, right? And he always was. Yeah, he held us accountable, and so I feel that I learned better that way. As opposed to like, people being like, oh, well, you can try harder next time. Like that's not me. Like, I know I'm very like, people see me as like a very kind, very nice person, but I learn better when people are very direct and I won't say rough with me. That's not the word. I'm like more accountable. You know what I mean? They hold me to a standard.
But you did not get any of that from me.
No, I know.
You've not received any of it ever. If you ever want to, I'll give you a what for.
I think I'll pass on that one.
All right. I had to do it today with the class. I have a specific way to answer questions, because you're learning what I'm teaching, but your question that you answer, you're just answering a question like with the tiniest thing. I need you to answer the question because you got to learn the back end and the front end of it when you teach. So if I ask you, what is one of the 6 root forms of pressure? Physical. Now, every one of the 6 root forms of pressure is physical pressure. And so I gave that instruction, ask, and then the very next person, what's one of the 6 root forms? Psychological. What the fuck?
So is that what the walking was, Lynn?
And
the walking was the physical pressure? You were putting on me the physical pressure?
No, I wasn't involved in that at all. You did that. Pressure is something different. If I apply physical pressure, you will feel it. You have to experience pressure. What you experienced was exercise because it wasn't difficult for you. You didn't have to go to the bathroom. You knew how to hold it through the whole time. So the pressure you would have received from me is if you would have said something out loud when you weren't supposed to speak, and I would have gone through my spiel that how can I trust that you'll be able to pass information to a dog if you can't follow instructions yourself given to you in your own language? When a dog can't speak English, how can I believe that you're going to give them what they need? That was the whole goal, and the whole real goal is that you're instinctually going to talk because we're human. And I was taking that away from you, just like the dogs. They cannot speak. So I wanted you to have a lower ability to communicate and be empathetic for the dog who cannot explain that they have to go to the bathroom the way we can. You squeeze your little, where can it go? But the idea was to try and really mess with you and hopefully get you to the point where you let go of some of your human things and can see that the dog needs our assistance through a bunch of things instead of just blaming them. So, but anyway.
And so I want,
yeah.
I heard about this. I didn't hear the story, but I heard about something about Huskies and Lynn and some Huskies that you had, Sue. Well,
No, they weren't
what's that
mine.
story about?
So
I think it was a
it was when I
consultation.
was, when I was out there,
go for
Lynn,
it.
I got Lynn all to myself, which was the great part because there was nobody else there, lucky me. And so I went on some home visits with him, and he had this one. I'll never forget it. I tell everybody this story, and keep in mind this was, I don't know, like 15 years ago or something. And this family had 7 wolf hybrid dogs, and the females were fighting. If I recall correctly, Lynn, details from that far ago. The females were fighting. There was a female that was, causing the issue, and they called him out. And when we got there, they were all 7 of them were loose in this kind of backyard on a hill, and the family was all inside. Like, oh, one of the men was outside with them. He comes in with the hoodie on, with big paw prints in mud all over him. Like these dogs had just like mauled him, and I'm like, and Lynn's watching the dogs. These people are like, meow, 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 meow. And Lynn's watching
They had
the
an
dogs.
amazing plate glass windows so that you could see it like a TV. It was really great.
It was awesome. Huge window, right? So Lynn says to me, you stay in here and you watch. And so he goes out there with the dogs, and the family is just like, and I'm trying to block them out and watch Lynn. And it was 2 things. It was friggin' amazing to watch Lynn, like when he went out there and the whole conversation he had with the dogs physically, and never saying a word. Again, back to he's connected to what he was trying to teach me. And the way that they changed, the dogs talked back to Lynn was also really cool. And over the course of it, he got all 7 of them lined up. Now, keep in mind, these people couldn't even bring them in the house. They were wolves at this point. He lines all 7 of them up, and he's got the 2 females, one on either side of him. And I'm in there like trying to get the family to shut the hell up. I'm like, what are you going? And it was like, again, and I realized I'm never going to be able to do that. That takes some kind of like balls, first of all, even to walk out that back door. I'm not even sure I would have done it. I think they would have smelled me coming. And it's just like, I knew I was never going to, I saw what happened. I understood what happened, and I understood it enough to know my limit in a situation like that. So it was really, really amazing. And Lynn, I'll let you talk about what you did. And,
It was so long ago, and it's one of those situations where I was really upset still to this day that I did not record it, because I think it's one of those situations where I can actually say I did an amazing job. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not bragging, but I did an amazing job. 7 wolf hybrid dogs that, oh gosh. And I lined up, got the 2 fighting ones there. And, unfortunately for me and the dogs and Sue, they had so many family members there that they were all talking and doing whatever they were doing. I mean, one of the things I hate worse than no more, it's the worst thing is when you're hired to do something and they don't watch or pay attention. It's just a waste. But it wasn't a waste for me or for Sue, but it was for them. And I never really went back to them. They didn't. I think we left early because they weren't paying attention. I said something about.
you got mad.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I don't remember it all, but I walk out. I don't give a fuck, man. We did some amazing work. They shouldn't have wolf hybrids, let alone 7. I think they were all from the same pack, which is a big problem. Same litter, which is a massive problem. And within, I don't know, it might have been a long time, but it was a very short time compared to how long they had the dogs. I had every one of them calm and looking at me like, what do you want next?
So what was the overriding energy of that group or that pack? What was it that you went in and like moved first? What was the first thing you moved?
I just calmed it all down. I got everybody's attention first, and it didn't matter if after I got that one's attention that I lost its attention. I was going around until I got everyone's attention in bulks. Like 3 of them over here, 2 of them over there, and 1 over there, and then all of a sudden it's 7. And now I have everyone's attention, and I can start communicating. When one decides, yes, this, then I go straight for that one, and the other one's kind of just wait and see, and they're like, oh, he's serious. Oh, shit. And if another one tried to go out of bounds or do something, or if 2 of them ganged up, and the other ones, I think at one point, a couple of them started helping me out, and they saw the line.
The 2 females that were resisting you. The 2 females were like, they were your last ones you had to get under. Yeah.
And I tell you what, it is one of the most disappointing things ever that I didn't get that on video, because it was fucking amazing. It was pretty cool. And I was so disappointed when I came in and people weren't paying attention except for Sue. And then I think the daughter, there was a lot of them were just visiting. And the daughter said, how dare you talk to my dad? Like, there's something to that effect. And I'm like, well, we're out of here. I can't recall everything, but
I don't remember that part. I did, yeah.
And at that point in my life, I'm not messing around. I'll walk out. I'll state my business and go. But I don't think I ever went back to that place. And I would have loved to. What a great experience. But it's not a great experience when you don't have people doing the work on the other end.
Yeah.
But that was fun. And it was probably Lynn's not going to pay so much attention to me now since he had a good time with the dogs. He's not going to be hard on me.
I knew better already. I knew better already. By then, I already knew. But yeah, no, and I think you talk about your students learning and stuff, and I think one of the coolest things, and Todd, you can attest to this too, is I still feel like I'm learning stuff from that 15 years ago. Like I'll still see somebody with a dog, or I'll do something with my dog, and I'll be like, ah, shit, I violated rule number 1. And like, or I'll be like, oh, look at that. That dog's energy is everywhere but with that lady. And she wonders like why the other dogs don't want to play with him, because his energy is like woo across the leash. And she's saying, he's nice. Why don't the dog? Because those dogs are like, whoa. Yeah. So I think that's the cool part. And that's true of learning in general, right? Like when you really are immersed in it, it means something to you, you're engaged, you learn stuff even years later.
Even with Todd's question there, what did you do first? What did you do? I wouldn't have been able to explain it really back then, what I decided to do first. Years later, now that I've gone from everything being instinctual to now I've got to teach my instincts, that's impossible to do. So I got to find a way to communicate that. Now I look at things. It was a great question you asked. I need to establish a baseline of communication, and I can't do that without anybody's attention. And so those are the things that you just go for the most intense one first. Just like in a fight, you hit the biggest guy first, and if you win that little, everybody else is like, okay. But this wasn't a fight. It was at a sparring level, I guess. Maybe.
Were they really excited, like not aggressive, but that right there playing that edge where
sparring play is a spar and
what's that?
What happened? That's sparring instead of playing.
Yeah,
sparring right next to fighting. But the whole thing was they didn't leave that yard. They never went anywhere. I don't recall. There was zero structure, and you got a bunch of teenagers in one home. You're gonna have problems at some point. Things leak out. And I think their problem was that they're a hybrid that have more energy than the average dog, and they want to do things with it. They want to do real things with it. The hybrids and the wolves. So
they're one family, right? You said they were all from the same litter.
I believe that they were all the same age. I think they were really kind of young to a year, maybe 9 months to a year and a half. I can't recall.
They
were
all been a while.
The same age.
Because if I'm going to ask this, because I got a question about litter mate syndrome. Where the litter mates, you'll get just a particular pair of litter mates that just fire off, and I've seen it really bad. And I've never really had the wherewithal to take a look and say, because in hindsight, to the point you were just saying, to me, it must be the ones directly that would be kind of dead similar energy. Whatever that would be, like if you wanted to say, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, like to me, it would be the ones that would be like dead. They were just almost equal.
Those two were struggling for the top for sure.
Ever. but it was like a 2-5. You know what I mean? It's like one that had a lot of confidence and one that didn't really have any confidence. And so they're like peaches and cream. But as I see them get to where they're more, we're both exact, it seems to be.
But even in the wild, when you see wolves or bears or lions, if they are equal and they come up against each other, they pretty much say, you know what, I think it's best we go our separate ways. It's not that they're giving up and losing. They have a realization that if they get injured right now, they might not survive to carry on with what they were doing in their life. So they much rather save face, and both of us agree we're equal, and we'll go our separate ways.
So can two dogs? So I have a friend who's been asking me for help who has that exact state. It's interesting you bring it up. She's got the litter mate. She adopted these two dogs from a rescue, and they were puppies. They were playing. They were getting along. She wanted to have two dogs, and then all of a sudden one day everything changed. Right around when they were about 8 months oldish.
Yeah.
So then here her husband has bonded with one. She's bonding with the other. They keep them separate. They can't even have them. They can't even see each other. And they don't know what to do to take it. Like, how do they get it out of there, out from this all the time? And can these dogs live and cohabitate? What would what are some tips you can tell them?
Early on, I experienced this with a couple of Pitty's brothers. I mean, it got to where, like Kalima and Scotch, that eye contact, it didn't matter how far away, it was just visual. If the known presence of that dog was there, it was on. And in my opinion, when it gets to there and it lasts any period of time, the relative success rate of people is infinitively low, just because of whatever is driving and motivating it outside of the most experienced. And even then, I'm not saying you're not going to not. I succeeded with it in certain ways. I remember this case. I learned a lot about it. But to me, there's a time and place to go, shit, this might be an incompatible situation that we need to split up.
Yeah.
I've seen both, by the way. I've seen where they've made it work, and I've seen where other times they haven't worked. And most of the times they don't work. And I will say that the people that it doesn't work don't really put in the work. I worked with two families. They got these litter mates from 2 days old. They even bottle fed the dogs, but they're really good with dogs, period. But they're really good with dogs. You actually met them, Lynn. Remember the lady with all the Rotties? Had like 6 Rotties. She has 2 litter mates, but she understands dogs. Like she just really understands it. Even though she hired me, I'm like, you really don't need me.
She knew it from the beginning. This is somebody that took the right precautions.
Right.
By the time they call us, like Sue saying, they're 8 months old. And at this point, they've been practicing this since the middle of 4 or 5 months old, when their play session started really getting super saucy, and then one day, boom, elbow drops the wrong way and fire.
You want to go real now?
Yeah, let's go.
So I kept Kalima and Scotch separate for 10 years, just in case anybody's wondering. Anybody out there that thinks you can't do it, I managed them. For 10 years. Lynn helped me realize that
back when you were talking, I was gonna drop my little smart ass comments of, you literally are the best crate rotate human being that's ever existed in the crate rotate.
She has it down.
In ways that would make you proud. Just the placement and the exactness. I don't believe, at least a consequential. I don't ever remember one. There was never a mistake. Well, there was one mistake, and this is the one I want to talk about, just because I think this means a lot to people. That one where there was the bite and that the whole. But yeah,
before you go into there, let's talk about her crate and rotate. Is not like the negative crate and rotate out there that you see at trainers who are just kind of giving up, or people who are just overwhelmed. Her crate and rotate, everybody got what they needed, but you're going away and you're coming out.
Yep.
You two can come out and you go away. She gave every dog what they needed, but she did it in a management way. And management is what we have to do anyway, but this level of management is critical if you're going to keep 2 dogs that are fighting. You cannot make mistakes.
Well, and the other said
same
earlier
order
is
too.
you are
They come
a long
out the
distance
same.
runner.
What's that?
Yep.
You're a long distance runner, so you constantly kept your dogs in motion. So if you're gonna have any form of movement like you're talking about, you have to keep those dogs moving. And you did that in spades. I mean, it was never a shortness of exercise or a need of exercise.
No, and
Well,
I
she
still
learned
do
at
it
my
because I have
facility
2
too that
female.
basically,
Yeah, Reef.
well,
Are you going to
basically
talk
at my
about Reef?
facility when it was just,
Mhm.
no, I was going to talk about kind of create and rotate. When it's just
Yeah.
me and maybe a student, I got a shit ton of dogs I got to deal with, and some of them can be together with other dogs and some can't. So we were moving the entire time. She's got the endurance. I had the endurance back then. So when crate and
Yeah.
rotate goes bad is when a trainer or a rescue or whoever starts to get bored. Well, I already put them out. No, you get done with the crate rotate, you begin again. You don't stop until the day's over. It's all day long. Everybody gets the same amount of time. It's just in increments when you
Yeah.
have to do
And
it
I've
like
always
that.
done them in the same order too. So like I still do it. I go oldest to youngest, right? Like that, and they know that. They know who goes first. And when the older one unfortunately dies off, that one knows and he comes first. And they get in the van, their crates, the same crate inside the van, and they go in the same door, they go out the same door in the house, and it never fails. And that's the kind of diligence. And if you aren't that kind of person, then you can't have you can't have dogs that need that, and you can't have two
Yeah.
dogs that don't get along.
Yep, there'll be a mistake and it'll be costly.
That in itself is structure, and the dogs have this expectation of what to do.
Here's failed crate and rotate. Did you guys hear? I just read an article of a girl in New York who was doing foster. She took a dog into her house that couldn't be with the other dogs. She kept it in her room, opened up the door. The dog busts through, I guess had a cone on it, bust past her to go get another dog in her house. She grabbed it and tried to force it in a bathroom and ended up in the bathroom with her. And it spent 30 minutes attacking her, and they had to amputate the lower part of her arm because of a failed crate and rotate. Dog not being done.
Well, just failed.
So
fail to understand your abilities or limitations. I hear Sue saying things that I want people to hear. Knowing your limitations is critical.
Yeah.
Now, if you can turn your limitations over and study them well enough, you can then see a map to your abilities and no limitations. But the idea is to see that you have them, whether you want to improve them or not, is up to you. When you have an inability or a limitation and you ignore that, you get part of your arm cut off in an amputation because you didn't pay attention to your own abilities. Yeah,
absolutely.
No, that was a well placed. That was. I like the roadmap. If you wanted to flip your inabilities over and the roadmap, your abilities are there. That's pretty.
Well, you got to study your inabilities pretty well. You know your own weaknesses. You just don't want everybody else to know them. But if you know them, the answer to how to solve them, to make them strong, your weaknesses strong, is right there. That's it's a good thing.
And I'll tell everybody, since both Kali Ma lived to be almost 16 and Scotch was 15 and a half, and they ultimately did end up like being together, and they would sleep on the same bed together. It was crazy shit. But my cousin was visiting. He's like hungover. He's strumming his guitar, and I come in from a run, and I'm like, I walk in the door, and there's Scotch and Kali Ma laying down next to each other, and I'm like, oh my God, what? And he's just like, what? And he had Hannah, my other lab who loved everything. Yeah. He had Hannah locked in the bathroom, and or in the other room, and he had Scotch and Kalima. He's like, what? I'm like, no, Scotch has stripes. So her whole life, her collar had stripes. Scotch has stripes. So that's how you could never not tell them apart. But he was like drunk and didn't know, and like, and that was it.
Well,
after that, and now by then they were like 13. So
this is a really good thing to understand. What we had here is two ladies that got old and had tea together, and like, our old time together is gone. It's water under the bridge. We're fine. But what really happens a lot of the time, and I don't want you to think you did anything wrong here because you did everything amazingly perfect, is sometimes we put so much thought into what has happened and we make what will happen. And I've had this happen, even myself, go into the back, late at night before bed, you just put one dog out there, and then I come back out to get Pony, and I realize that Ellie is out there. A murderer is outside with Pony, and I just forgot to bring her in before I put him out there, and they've been out there for a long time. Well, why didn't they kill each other? Now, as soon as I stepped out there and go, oh shit, right at it, right? So it's a lot about human influence, our emotions, and how it just vibrates off, and then it picks up the practice where it left off before, where they met each other out there. We've never seen each other out here by ourselves. There's nobody out here. Hey, want to sit down and chill? So what's it like being a pit bull, right? So as soon as the vibration of oh shit comes out, boom. Fortunately, oh shit and boom was right in front of me, so I got it really fast. But it could have been bad. That was a really poor thing on my part. But if they can get along, without humans involved, what are we doing? What are we doing? You know,
I think every dog trainer has gone through that exact same thing, and hopefully everybody gets to pull a lesson out of it. Because we were talking about the sibling rivalry earlier. One of the lessons I learned in that, and I even mentioned that I learned a lot from that, was I was doing the same thing. I was only allowing them together in a certain structured way, and then they got together. They got through a fence and got together, and they were completely fine. But it wasn't because I was ready to get them together. I was still in the mode that you're saying is I was in the no, they're not ready yet mode, and it's tough to learn and make that right adjustment, because you can just as easily go, oh, they're ready, let's do this, and then you misfire, and people get traumatized by that misfire. You never can manage too long and it mess you up. That's not a mistake you can really you can never really from a mistake, oh man, I did it really good for a really long time, bitch, that sucks. But you can't, you decide to just go to, it's such a fine line to walk.
It is. And sometimes, I mean, that's the whole reason why we got to learn dog psychology well enough to interpret what the dogs are feeling and how they intend to use that feeling, even with a sibling, and how they intend to do it, because we can misinterpret so much and trigger all the problems that we don't want to have or trying to fix. Obviously, when they come to us that way and we see magic like that, it does tell us it tells me how much the human interferes and messes things up. But it is wonderful to see that magic for that moment. Like, how did that happen? I remember I use e-collars. I love e-collars. I use them completely different than any other trainer out there. But I remember having the facility there and I had 6 2-dog unit on my side, and they're all out there. All the chainsaws were running around. I saw Dink doing something. I 1, 2, 3 down to his, and then turn it. It went to push the button, and he kind of felt it without me pushing the button. Didn't look over to me, but he just walked away from what he was about to do. And I'm thinking to myself, if I can do that with my mind, I'm literally about to push the button. What do I need the buttons for? We don't, but we have very little access to that real clear
don't you think he read your energy
zone? Yeah, but he
read your intent.
I was at the back, and he was all the way across the cement. It was an acre of things. I was far away.
So I watched the show, and I don't know if this is bullshit editing or not, but I watched the show, and this was what they were setting up, is they had a camera on somebody's car, in their car, and they had a camera on the dog, and the dog started reacting when the car was a couple miles from home. So well before it could be auditory, any scent that could have been blown in. But it's just, and this is where they were talking, is that, does the dog, quote unquote, read our mind? So are they able, this is what I've always held in my mind, is that they're able to see our intention. So whatever that movie screen you're seeing, they see. So as you reached for it, you saw it, right? So to the point of what Sue was saying, and that was one of the things and I've never forgot that. And I've always owned deaf dogs, so I'm constantly by going, I own deaf dogs. I've always owned them. So that was good. And so I'm reminded through that, because I'll stand out there on purpose and just go, all right, I just want to say his name in my mind. See if I can get him to turn around. But yeah, that's a good one.
Two things on that. One, I agree with you. They have access to a mental freeway that we don't always have access to it. When I get access to it, it is an amazing feeling. And I want access to it all the time. And I know that he did feel my intention, and my intention was pure. There was no frustration. There was no anger. It was timed. I was going to do it perfectly well, and he would not have even known it was me. It would have been perfect. And
Dink ate shit.
Yes, but that's not what he was doing there. That he was about ready to bite. He was about ready to bite a dog, because that's what he liked to do. Come up from behind, like, "Hey, I'm Dink. I'm good." But so it was so smooth and perfect that I fit into whatever mental zone they can read. But the other thing, and we just don't have access to it all the time because we're cluttered with life shit, right? When you're in that zone, you can stay in it because you don't care about it. I got a lot of baggage. But the thing you were saying about the dog and the human coming home, was it the same time that the human comes home?
Yes.
That they were filming? Because if it was the same time, they have like a body clock, just like when they're hungry. And so they have a body clock of social interaction as well. And so, yeah, you'll see dogs sitting there. They've been laying there, and all of a sudden they get up and go hang out by the front door. And then suddenly they get up and shake it off, and then they look at the door like they know, because it's such a timed thing. It's right around that time. This is when it's so predictable in its pattern that the dog is synced with it.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't set an alarm clock. I don't need to. I got 3 of them right here. I do not set an alarm.
Same. 5:27 every morning. My dog Buddha wakes up. I hear him walking around. I look at my clock. It's 5:27, and I'll kind of wait. He'll walk down the hallway. I can hear him walking down the hallway, and I'll just go. I'll just like breathe, like do, and it's not loud. We're separated by a door, and I hear like he's getting excited because he hears me breathing.
Yeah, he knows. Check it out during time zone changes, like with the what do you call it? What's it called?
Daylight savings?
Yes. Daylight saving doesn't work here in Arizona. It doesn't change. Time doesn't change. But when you change your time, the next time you change your time, take note of everything that your dog you've been doing with your life, and then just sit back and watch how they try to figure out this hour difference of time. It's pretty wild.
It totally supports what we were saying earlier about the structure. If you do the same thing, the same rotation, the same order, the same time, then you create this thing. It's the same idea. People make all these memes about when the time changes, like their dog's wanting dinner and stuff like that. Yeah. So create that, right? Like, Lynn, I don't know what rule it is anymore, but like if you envision it, like you decide what you want, and then you create it. Right. And you create that through structure and consistency and that, all those rules. And
the pattern you set is the pattern you get.
Or it could also be plan the actions you take and take action on the way you planned.
It is before that thing happens that the dog says, "Hey, it's 5:30. I haven't seen Dad." So that plan the actions you'll take action is everything you did to change your circadian rhythm to wake up at that time. And the dog says, "Okay, he gets up this week, been consistent. Where is he? I think I'll get there before he does." So then it's the pattern. So yes, you're right. The rule 10, plan the actions you'll take action on your plan. But by the time it gets to where the dog is coming to you, it's the pattern you set. And that's the pattern you get.
Hey, by the way, this happened to me about a month ago. I worked with this puppy, and every time I would bring him in from outside, I would put him in the crate. And I had to clean out his crate because he was going to be going home later on that day. So I actually moved his crate, and he was the one on the far end, right? And so there was no crate there, but he came in from outside. The crate was already gone. He comes in and he goes exactly to right there. And he didn't move. I have this on video. He didn't move. I walked around the house. I came back. He was just staying there.
He was blind or deaf?
Huh?
Did you say he was blind or deaf?
What?
Yeah. I created that trick for a while.
Oh my God, this is terrible.
They told you guys there was too much boy humor on here.
Yep, I'm puns of fun. I'm Uncle Punny. I just moved the TV and the couch, and that means I had to move the crates. And where it used to be, the pattern you set, the pattern you get is I would say, "All right, casa casa," and it looked like Edward Scissorhand, where everybody was coming home from work at the same time and going in the garage at the same time. They'd go right to their crates. Now I say casa casa, and everybody's like, "Oh, well, I don't know what to do. It's all moved," because it's completely new and different. But yeah, so I used to use that all the time in teaching. Remember this? Maybe I was saying it back then. I want to displace their expectations, right? Whatever they expected happens, I'm going to change it right now just to see how they deal with it, But this is fun. This is fun.
I travel with my dogs a lot. I think that carries over. Like my dogs are really good. I've driven them across the country. We stay in hotels, we camp, we do all this stuff. But I create like the same. They sleep in the same spot. I have the same carry crates I take. Like I maintain the structure on the road, and I think it's why they're so good. Like they stay so good in hotels. They don't bark, and and it's fun. I love doing it. I love driving across the country.
That's
Just me. I don't want to take another human. That messes the whole thing up.
You do
setting up those.
You do small things so perfect that those type of rituals are super easy for you. Anything that involves just that type of thing is you do perfectly. Your dogs are always going to have that just automated type of approach. It's
but my limit, Todd, another good story, another story is another time I saw my limit. Remember the human aggressive dog that you trained so well, and that you took me to practice, because you guys have done, my memories are more because you've done so many more of those dogs since then. But you had this dog and you trained her. It was really human aggressive. This single girl had her, and you ended up getting that dog to the point where we were able to put her in a crate in front of my class. Walk all my nobody could put their hand in, but all my students that wanted to walked by the dog. You got that dog so far. But I remember the one time you had me hold my hand out for the dog to smell, and you and I both realized at the same moment. But it was your reaction that saved her from biting me. It was like I mean, she was like sniffing me. I'd been walking her. It was going really well. All of a sudden, she presses down on my hand, and both of us, like, I went back and you grabbed the dog and reacted real fast. And I was like, I can't do that. I don't want to work with human aggressive dogs. Like, yeah, that's like next level. And that dog ended up being great.
My thing just phased out. As you were started telling that story, my thing cut out. That dog's name was Turtle, I think.
Yes, it was. About. You're right. Yep.
Yeah. That was
that the dog that you had, Todd, that bit me while I was out there visiting you and Sue?
No, I don't think Turtle was a turtle.
No.
Sue took me to the hospital that day. Made me go.
Oh shit! No, that was a.
The dog had an embedded collar.
Correct.
And
it was a Newfie. It was a big Newfie or something like that, and it had.
It was a big dog.
It was an embedded collar, and you saw it about to get me, and you did something. It was about to do something that you saw at me, and you intervened and ended up getting bit. And then I remember popping it with a chair, and it bought like a second or so.
Here's what really happened. I mean, that along with the collar came off.
That's
what
it.
You had, and the dog came over to me, and it got in between my legs, and you guys were like, grab it or don't or do something, whatever it was. And I grabbed this before I knew it had an embedded collar. So I grabbed it by its scruff because it didn't have anything on. And all of a sudden, what? And I'm like, what in the? So then we had to do all the thing that I did. And that's where the chair came in, and we got the dog back to calm. And that's when I learned about the dog having an embedded collar. And
that's right.
That's an entire subject we should talk about. because it's very sensitive.
Yeah.
The dog will be sensitive like that for the rest of its life. I mean, it just assumed, and it wasn't like the human was causing any pain. It just, if you've ever seen an embedded collar, the dog continues to grow with its puppy collar, and it grows and grows, and the skin starts to open up and grow around
it.
the collar. And when you can find it, it's still a big operation. I think the first person that found it, the dog was in the water, and he went to pull him out of the water, and he grabbed him by the scruff, but the collar actually came out of the skin, and the dog bit him, and that's why he got rid of him, and that's why that girl then adopted him, I think, or she was a rescue, I think. But at any rate, when you have that dog like this, you've got to pay so much attention to anybody around it that might want to touch it on the back. If it's got that it's so painful, so painful. Just put a tight rubber band around your wrist for a while. Just tight. You don't have to let your skin embedded, but can you imagine growing so much that the skin grows around the collar? At some point, he's not going to be able to breathe. That's horrible.
Yeah.
And so when he bit me, the only thing I was like, I remember this, Todd, because I go, dude, why didn't you grab him? Well, you're here. I'm like, what's your consultation? And then Sue said, you got to go to the doctor. I'm like, I do my own surgeries. No, you got to go to the doctor. Well, you're here visiting me. And so I went to the doctor, and still it's been years, and it's a pretty big hole still. That was a big bite.
It was a big dog, if I remember right.
It wasn't his fault, though. It wasn't anybody's fault. Nobody's fault, except for the owner that left the collar on him for it to skin grow around it. Horrible.
Fuck that guy.
But
right.
I thought that's what the dog you were talking about, because we all three
it's a good segue. It was a great segue from one to the next, right? It worked.
Yeah.
So
Sue, what's going on with you right now? I mean, as far as the Arf Shack, your rescue. I got 2 dogs from the Arf Shack. I got Tuffy Tufferson, Tank Tuffington, and Hugh. From
that's
the
right.
Arf Shack. Sight unseen. I said I'll take them.
Not Hugh.
Well, actually,
Hugh at
you guys all right
Osceola County Animal Control. Yeah, my friend Vicky, who I also met through the Pitbull Kalima, she used to work at Osceola County Animal Control. It's in just outside of Orlando, and she wanted to bring Lynn there to meet some of the girls and like see some of the dogs. And Hugh had there, and he was shut down. I mean, shut down in the back, and Vicky knew he had potential, and she really wanted Lynn to see what Lynn thought could be done. Like, she didn't want to have to put him down or anything, but he was shut down. He wouldn't let any of the girls take him out.
That was the next step. What?
Yeah.
He wasn't eating, wouldn't
get him
move.
Out of the,
I mean, he looked like roadkill, frozen.
Just stiff, and Vicky knew she just didn't want to do it, but they couldn't do anything, and he wasn't eating or whatever. And I mean, Lynn went and sat down, and I don't remember how long it took you. It wasn't super long, but you were able to communicate with him and let him know it was okay. And you turned that dog around, and in the process, you fell in love with him. It was like one of the sweetest things to watch ever. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that, was I? I wasn't supposed to say what Lynn was, but it was sweet.
Sweet.
And
that Lynn was sweet.
It was. Yeah. And that
was a sweet thing.
Yeah, it was like Hugh was just like, dude, I've been waiting for you. Where you been? Yeah. And so we pulled him. Todd, took him until we could arrange the flight, but to anybody listening. But it was pretty incredible, and it was incredible to watch. And Vicky, I know Vicky and I talk about it all the time. So it was pretty cool. But
at some point, I was
the Arf Shack has been
trying to get him.
I don't remember the details. I just remember,
Well, I was working him with a leash, and then I was like, somebody was walking a dog out to the yard or something, and Hugh stuck his head up like that. I'm like, is that what you want? Do you like other dogs? And so I get out of the way, and then I'd start doing the leash. He's like, okay, I'll go if I can follow. I had him bring the dog back by, and then he followed that way. So I used the dog, social pressure. I use social pressure to get the dog up and moving. And at that point, oh my God, you know, and it was really cool. I wouldn't even have thought about it until I saw Hugh say, "There's a dog," and boom. But at that point on, Hugh was my little guy. But one last thing about Hugh, and then you keep going with what you were saying. Hugh was really small, and when I basically brought him to life, right? And when he died in my arms, just like he came to life in my arms. And I'm not crying right now, but it was very impactful. And that day I posted a video saying he did a roll. He liked to roll on his back and stick his belly up, and he hadn't done it in months. I caught him. I caught it on video. And I was like, "This is amazing!" And literally 2 hours later, you know, he died in my arms. I had given him mouth to mouth. So I'm not upset about that at all. I saw him from beginning to end. I'm all right with that. But yeah. So please, Arf Shack.
The Arf Shack's a lot smaller.
Working
like
it?
I said,
still doing it?
Yep. I will always do it. Like I said, I got Vicky and I got a Yorkie. And then we get another pup. So I kind of do like what I've been doing a little differently is people are looking for dogs, and you know, I'll like get to know the person, and then I'll go find a dog and like kind of do it that way so that they're, you know,
Mutt match.
there's less there's less dogs in my home. It's not as much. When I came down here 13 years ago, you know, I was kind of burnt out on rescue. I had to take a break financially and just, you know, and not burn out on the dogs. Everybody should be very clear who I was burnt out on, and it wasn't the dogs. So yeah, and so I just do it here and there. And then of course when I moved down here, I had 6 dogs and a cat, and I was renting. So like bringing in more rescue dogs into my house was kind of out of the question. Now, and I tell everybody I'm down to 3 dogs. I think my boyfriend very wisely put a limit at 3. And so yeah, so I'm just kind of doing it here and there, but always I'll never stop because it's just part of who I am.
You got your fingers in the rescue world all the time. You're just not
always
knee deep into it.
Yeah. Okay. And I donate a lot too, and I try to help the situation out up in the Redlands. Which that would be a whole nother topic we can talk about. It's an area outside, sort of like agricultural area outside of Miami, where people regularly dump dogs. And I mean regularly, I mean like someone's dumping dogs right now. So yeah, it would be a good thing to talk about and what the rescues are doing up there. So yeah, but anyway. So
are they running around down there like you see in some of these countries where like 30 dogs have come together because they've been dumped off so much? Like if let's say we did a field trip and did a podcast down there, would there be enough dogs to study and interact with?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Absolutely. There's the Redlands Dog Sanctuary.
Good idea.
Yeah. I mean, there are rescues down there. The Redlands Dog Sanctuary, they do a great job. They almost think that sometimes people are dumping dogs there because they know the rescue. You know, it's almost gotten worse because the rescues are there. But nonetheless,
you know why
there's a guy named.
I never put a sign on any of my facilities. Never put a sign on any of my facilities because I knew people were going to just tie dogs up. I would never, if I were a rescue or sanctuary, I'd never put up a sign. You'd have to it'd be like an old school rave where you get on a bus with the windows all cracked out and you don't know where you are. You don't know where you're going. You just go we got to the building and here we are, rave. But
this might be a whole nother podcast right here. That conversation.
I think it could be. I think that should be a good conversation for us to. I don't know. I'd love to go to Florida again. Go down there and check it out.
Let's figure something.
No, I meant Lynn's rave story.
Podcast.
I was talking about the rave story of the blacked out bus. I was like, whoa.
Oh, I got stories.
We know.
This has been awesome. This has been awesome. Sue, I really appreciate you coming on here and chatting with us again. You know, I really when I spoke to you a couple weeks ago, I was like, yeah, I want to get you on there. Plus, and you've already kind of mentioned, you said, you know, all the guy jokes. I think it's good to get a female on here. I wanted to kind of bring you on here also for that reason. But I want you to come back. I want to see more of you. Where's Lynn going?
I would love to come back, Art, and I'd love to come work with you. Absolutely, and learn from you.
Well, I would love to go to the Keys personally. Like that's just me. I've been to the Keys. There's that John Penda camp. It's like on that first right there when you get to the Keys. went out to John Pennicamp, and I snorkeled down and I saw the Christ of the Abyss, the statue that's underground. I got to go down there. It was really cool. I've done that before.
Yeah.
Never been.
Yeah.
Never been.
It's not an ugly place.
But
not at all.
We should think about doing some sort of out of the studio podcast and do an adventure. And two of them are in Florida. We might as well just head on down there if we can do something like see a bunch of homeless dogs that packed up, or go to rescues.
Yeah, the Redlands is about
and talk
maybe
to
2.5 hours
about
north
dog
of here.
psychology.
Yeah, and Junior, the guy who runs it, I think he knows Caesar. No, I'm not sure, but he says he does anyway.
We know him.
Cool.
Too. We know him too. So.
Yeah. Oh, I do.
I know.
I took a picture with him at a workshop one time. It's all over my website now.
Lynn being in the car with you way back during like going through the program, and you were texting Caesar, and I was like, holy shit, he's fucking texting Caesar right now. Oh man, I can't even fucking believe it. Pretty funny.
No, I get that. I get that. A lot of people would, when are we going to go to Caesar's thing and take a picture? I had to do a whole thing in the very beginning, making sure people understood that's not part of this. But I understand the joy of that you must have experienced, and plus believe me, back then it was pretty cool just to get a text and a call from, oh, I'm sorry, it's Caesar.
Yeah.
Well,
you know what? You have until you signed autographs. I did the Asia thing, and talk about seeing it from a different point of view by association. Yeah. He's a fangirl. Yeah, Sue, it's been awesome having you on. It's a good mix and balance, and there's still plenty of stories to tell.
Yeah,
we're just getting started.
Yeah, and
yeah,
you guys, I never talked about it, and I think this one's really important. And we'll mention is that we talk about it later. I really would like for you to talk about your experience of what you went through in the court with regards to animal control, because I reference it regularly for people to understand what their rights are through animal control. It's different in different states, but here in Florida, it's a really misunderstood agency as far as what they can and can't do, what your rights are, what they're not. And you went all the way. You went to the Supreme Court, right? The Florida Supreme Court.
Look at you.
Yeah. I didn't actually testify, but it did go there. But it wasn't because of the dogs, just to be clear. It was because we went in under what's called a sunshine law violation, and because they didn't give us records. So in most states, if you request public records, a public office has to produce said records, right? Well, we asked for the records and they didn't give it to us. So that's really how we got through that whole thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's how we took it. So if anybody wants to Google my name, you'll find it. It's all the shit I've done, that'll come to the top.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I'm going to be doing after this call.
Yep. If anybody's just listening and not watching this episode on YouTube, you're just watching and listening, just understand that Sue is wearing so much pink and sitting in a pink chair, pink headphones, and just pink. It's just pink.
I know. I said I put this on purpose because I'm like, I'm going into the Bro Fest with pink. Just what they need there. That's why I'm doing it. I'm taking pink energy in.
Perfect. Much appreciated.
Well, cool. Thank you guys so much. This has been great. And then I can't wait to have you on again, Sue. So thank you. Thanks again.
Thanks, Art. Thanks for
Lynn,
having me.
Todd.
It was really fun.
This is the Dog Psychology Podcast with Lynn, Todd, and Art, and our guest, Sue. We'll see you next episode.
Thanks, guys.